Welcome back to Toni Farmer's Garden, the podcast. Most of the time when I do product reviews, I tell you that they're nice to haves, but there are three products I consider must-haves for all the gardeners. And today we're talking to the daughter of the founder of one of those products, Ann Molloy. Ann's grandfather started Ocean Crest Seafoods in the 60s, but when it comes to fish, only 30% of each fish is actually eaten. So what do you do with the other 70%? Well, Ann's family decided to stop wasting it and created an organic fish fertilizer called Neptune's Harvest. They started selling it just to farmers, but when Ann joined the family business, she helped them sell to home gardeners. And that's great news for us because this stuff works miracles. So today I'm talking to Ann about what makes her fertilizer so effective, tips for helping your garden grow, and everything you didn't realize you didn't know about the fishing industry. Let's talk about it. All right, welcome, Ann. It is so nice to meet you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Please tell us your origin story because it's fascinating. You didn't start out making fertilizer.
Gloucester, Mass is the oldest working seaport in America. And so generations have been fishermen. My grandfather, my father, all my uncles, both sides of the family were all fishermen. And they missed their family. You know, my grandfather started having kids. He was in love with his wife. He missed them, awfully. So he decided he wanted to go into selling fish instead of fishing. And this is a guy that was born in Sicily. He's, Italian was his first language. He came here when he was 4 years old. He had to quit school at 14 years old to go support the family. And so really no formal education, just a lot of guts and, street smarts and, ambition. And so he bought a fish company and he started unloading fishing boats and selling fish all over the country. And then he brought in fuel and put in fuel tanks and started selling fuel to the fishermen. And then my dad, same story. He was a fisherman, started missing his family. My oldest brother started calling his grandfather, my father's father-in-law, Dad. And he's like, I'm killing myself, out here working 20 hours a day, 10 days in a row. And then I come home and my son is calling my father-in-law Dad. So
and I'll interrupt you there. I don't think the average person understands how hard the life of a fisherman is, how many hours you're out there. And on some of the trawlers, they go out for months at a time, like
yeah,
the deep sea fishing, and you don't see your family at all. So a lot of people don't realize how difficult that job is.
it really, really is. And out of a 24-hour day, they're working 20 hours. So it's just crazy, dangerous. They're risking their lives.
Very dangerous.
So anyway, he came ashore and same thing. He quit school as a young 14, 15-year-old kid to support the family. And so he just kind of on the job training, bought a fish wharf and started unloading the boats. And the city of Gloucester took it by eminent domain to build the Coast Guard station.
Oh, my word.
He said to my grandfather, his father-in-law, he said, I want to, move. Do you have any suggestions of property I could buy? And he said, I'll tell you what, I'm making more money selling oil to the boats than I am fish these days. So I'm going to go into the home heating oil business. And he sold my dad the wharf, and it was called Progressive Fish Company. He sold that to my dad in 1965. He changed the name to Ocean Crest Seafoods and started unloading boats and had a successful seafood business. Well, flash forward to the 80s, the government restrictions on the amount of fish you could bring in was enabling the catch was going down and down.
Mm-hmm.
So we had less fish. And there was a plant in Gloucester that took all the fish remains and made pet food. And they went out of business because a lot of wealthy neighbors moved in and complained about the smell. So long story short, we were paying fishermen to take the gurry, which is everything left over after you fillet a fish. 60 to 70% of the fish is left over when you fillet it. We were paying fishermen to take it back out to sea and dump it. So it was really expensive and wasteful. And so he said, maybe if I can use 100% of the fish, I can keep everybody employed. He had a lot of, kids and nephews, nieces, cousins all working there. And so he got together with his friend at UMass Marine Station, and they helped him develop a process of turning it into fertilizer. So I love to say my dad had the guts to go into the fertilizer business in the 80s. And then we just sold to farms for the first 10 years. And then in the early 90s, I had my son, and I really didn't like being a bookkeeper. I really wanted to do the fertilizer sales. So I said, why don't we start bottling it so the homeowners can use it
Yeah,
too? I had my first garden at the time, and all they had in the store was Miracle Grow. And
absolutely.
so that's how we ended up in the fertilizer business.
Same story. And I had my twins in 1997, and I had been using Miracle Grow because that was what everyone used, right? I didn't know any better. And I remember standing in the grocery store looking at organic baby food and just having that mom kind of like, you're faced for the first time in your life with the care of this little person, and you just want to do right by them. And I'm not saying organic baby food is the answer. I'm just saying that's what I was buying and spending my money on. And then I went home one day, spring, and I start to pour this blue liquid on my garden. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I not gardening organically? And I found your products not too many years after that, and I've been using them. I'm embarrassed to tell you how long. It's almost 25 years, I think, some 20 plus years. Um, so a couple things I wanted to point out to our listeners is this concept she's talking about is what we refer to as the circular economy. And companies all over the world are desperately trying to do what Anne has done, which is find a use for your waste product that creates this cycle where you don't have any, you're not putting something bad out into the world for what you're making. So I don't know if you heard her there say 60 to 7% of the fish is left over after we fillet it for the cuts you buy in the grocery store. And now, why does it make such a good fertilizer? Explain that to us, Anne.
So the whole world used to be under ocean water. They found fish fossils on the top of Mount Everest. So it kind of makes sense that, all the runoff over the years has been, washing away all these nutrients from the ocean. So when you put them back on, it's got everything plants and soil need in nature's perfect balance. So
Hmm.
all that it's got macronutrients, which is your NPK, but it's got
Hmm.
micronutrients, trace elements, amino acids, vitamins, enzymes, minerals, trace elements, trace minerals, growth hormones that are naturally in fish that make fish grow, plus all your omega oils.
Hmm.
So it makes very nutrient dense food, and it just it builds the organic matter in the soil, makes it nice and deep, so it retains moisture yet drains better. It'll sequester carbon. It'll draw nitrogen from the atmosphere. So it's just got everything that the plants need, and that's why it works so well.
Okay, so how did seaweed enter the picture? Did you just in your research realize that that was going to add some of the nutrients to change the formulations a little bit?
Yeah, so we started going and we still go to this day to Acres USA conference. It's the biggest organic farming conference in the world, and the brightest minds in organic agriculture are there. And we listen to the speakers. We met the guy that started it, Charles Walters. He wrote a book called Sea Energy Agriculture, and it talks a lot about seaweed. We're like, well, we have plenty of seaweed off the New England coast here, and
Yeah.
it's Ascophyllum nodosum. We call it rockweed or Norwegian kelp, but it's the long brown,
Hmm.
um, like ribbons, and then it's got the little bubbles you can pop. That's
Hmm.
the stuff we use, and it's cut off the rocks. So, say this is your coastline, and you start cutting it here, and the fishermen cut it. They don't rip it off the rocks. By the time you get here and you come back like 3 months later, it's regrown. So it's incredibly
Incredible.
stable. It's very cold, clean, mineral rich water. And it just is a match made in heaven with the fish. It's got so many benefits.
Yeah,
So,
I love that combination. I love it. I use less of it in the spring when I'm like looking for nitrogen heavy, but then the minute I want flowering, I switch over probably like late May to that formulation. And I have more produce than I know what to do with. So, about the smell, I want to warn people that it smells out of the bottle. But if you are smelling it in your garden once you apply it after more than 20 or 30 minutes, you probably haven't mixed it properly. The smell dissipates so fast. So I do have to tell you, I love taking it into the classroom. I do a lot of school garden workshops, and it's so funny. This is going to sound so cliche, but when I tell the kids it smells really funky, all the girls run away and all the boys fight to smell it and they pass it around. And I'm like, I know this is so cliche, but they're like, oh, I want to smell it too. And then they make horrible faces like, oh. And so one of the things I love about this, there's a lot of slow release fertilizers out there on the market. I love hand applying. I absolutely love it. It is part of the process of being a a gardener for me. I mix this in my watering can and I will apply every week to my whole garden on my own. It gives me a chance to really look carefully at my plants. It gives me a chance to look for, I'll flip my zucchini leaves over and I'm looking for squash bud eggs, or I'm looking to see what the flea beetle pressure is. And so I highly recommend that if people are super busy, maybe you don't want to do that, but I highly recommend that gardeners really, it encourages interaction between you and your garden, which is how you learn and how you become a better gardener year after year. So, all right. So I love this economy, this cycle economy, and she's also describing very sustainable methods so that seaweed that's growing back, it continues to be sustainable. It's always going to be there. So, what else have you discovered in the last couple of years? How is the garden market customer different than your farm market customer?
Well, when we first started, people really, I mean, there was a few people that wanted organic, but it wasn't mainstream. Now it seems like
Yeah.
everybody wants organic. And the farmers are, there was always organic farmers and those were our customers, but the price of chemical fertilizer has gone up. At the beginning,
Yes.
more expensive. Now it's less expensive and it's harder to get from overseas. So we've turned a lot of heads. And our best farm distributors are farmers that used it. Their crops grew
Hmm.
so beautifully. Their neighbors
Yes.
by go, what are they doing? Why is their crops look so much better than mine? And then they talk about it and then they start selling it to their neighbor. And that's how they become distributors. Everybody in the area starts using it.
Yeah.
So it's
So
just
price of fertilizer is
and
skyrocketing. So we get most of our synthetic fertilizer. 30% of it comes through the Strait of Hormuz. We get a lot of it from Russia, and that was backlogged because of the Ukrainian war. And it used to be, oh, organic is so expensive. Not anymore. I actually feel like we're going to win to this. And I would say it's not only that everyone suddenly is talking organic, suddenly everyone wants to garden. Like backyard gardening is exploding. So it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. I wanted people to understand what are your options for fertilizing. If you are new to gardening and you want to garden organically, please check out Neptune Harvest. They've got a whole suite of products, and some are geared toward different times of the year or different, um, depending on if you're growing flowers, if you're growing vegetables. So tell us a little bit about your product line and tell us about getting into the crushed lobster shells and the rest of that.
right. So we keep expanding as we learn more and we listen to our customers. So people wanted a tomato and veg formula. They wanted a rose and flowering formula. And you can use the tomato and veg to get your plant big and bushy. And then even if it's a vegetable, switch to the rose and flowering because they flower. And the
Yeah.
more flowers you get, the more produce you're going to get. So, and then we know things like molasses. A lot of people use molasses, and Hume is becoming very popular because it's great and worthy
Yeah.
of becoming popular. Um, Add a little more calcium. So we do that, some biological microbes. So if your soil's kind of dead and you're starting out with poor soil, you put those microbes in there. The fish feed the microbes, and your soil's going to become more alive, more earthworms. So as we learn, as we listen to our customers, what they want, we've added to the line. Crab and lobster shell came about same way as the fish. These people, they cook the lobsters and the crab, they pluck the meat, they sell it to, stores, restaurants, and you have all this shell left over. So another way to utilize 100% of the crab and lobster shell is to dry it and, crush it. And now we have these great products that have, the calcium, which is great for the blossom end rot. The
Yep.
shell chunks will actually aerate your soil, so the roots will have room to wiggle down and they'll wrap around the shell chunks as a food source. So if it's nice and deep, your roots will go nice and deep. The deeper the roots, stronger the plant, higher the yield it can handle. Plus, it's got something in it called chitin, chitin, and that builds chitin-eating bacteria in your soil. A lot of insects are chitin-based in structure, so grubs, ants, root nematodes, ticks. There's so many things that are chitin-based in structure that'll get eaten. And that is a huge bonus. Down south, they have a lot of root nematodes. We have grubs up here, fungus, we have ants, all these things passively get taken care of with these products. So that's a really beautiful thing. You dig the hole that you're going to plant in, and you just put a handful of the crab and lobster in there, and maybe a handful of the kelp meal, which is the dry seaweed. We have liquid and dry seaweed. Kelp meal doubles in size when it gets wet, so it retains moisture and it creates more organic matter. The deeper the organic matter, the more water it's going to retain and how nicely your soil will drain. So these are the things you want in your soil. So you just put a little bit, you could, if you're doing a raised bed, you could just broadcast it and mix it all in, or you could just dig your hole to put your transplant in, put a handful of each, mix it around. You don't want a big clump in the root zone,
Mhm.
but you mix it around nicely, and then you just put in your liquid fish and seaweed in the hole, and then quickly, before it all absorbs into the soil, you put that plug in, and all that nutrition goes straight into that root ball, and you'll prevent transplant shock and get your plants off to a really healthy start.
I'm going to be demoing exactly what Ann just described, and we're going to look at the results. I mean, I've been using her fertilizer for a long time. This is might be my first season using the lobster shell, and I'm very excited to try this and see the difference. And this is for all my followers. I want you to understand that a lot of this is still new. Like we've known about it for maybe a decade, a little longer. We're still understanding the soil microbiome. But this is good news because it means there are so many ways we can heal our soil and grow more food than we ever thought possible than using traditional methods and keeping your ecosystem in your backyard healthy. So, um, learning how to use these products in your garden is going to be an important process for you this summer. And so I do a lot of product reviews and I call most of them nice to haves. 99.99%, I'm like, this is a nice to have, but you don't need it. But there's three products I recommend. They will never be nice to haves, they're must haves for me. So one is I use a biostim booster called PT Booster, which is mostly humic and fulvic and has made incredible improvement in my soil. I recommend beneficial nematodes. Let people learn how to use those and apply them accurately so they can start to break down that pest pressure in your soil. And then I recommend Neptune's Harvest because you're going to have to fertilize. Rain washes out nutrients and everything in your garden is sucking nutrients out of the soil. And I use your product weekly. So, I mean, I might skip a week here and there during the season. I use it for transplant and then they get a weekly treatment. I treat my whole garden. It's about half an acre all the way into the fall. And then there's other things I'm hitting in the fall because I want to give them a good setup for winter. What do you think the average home gardener needs to know? And keep in mind, I have a lot of people who've never gardened before. They're new to this and they are nervous, or they gardened 1 or 2 years and it didn't go well because often it takes a little skill. What do you want to tell them?
Well, with the Neptune's Harvest, I do a radio commercial, and one of the lines in it, whether you know what you're doing or not, you're gonna look good and you'll feel good. You're doing the right thing for the environment and your health. So it's basically, if you, even if you don't know what you're doing, the fish is gonna make you look good. The fish and seaweed. You put some crab and lobster in, put some fish and seaweed on. Remember to feed once a week. Every other week is still good. But if you can like do fertilizer Fridays or whatever,
Yeah.
Saturday, whatever, do your weekly feeding. If you're foliar feeding, do it early in the morning. You put it in a sprayer, you go out early in the morning when the morning dew is still out. The pores on the leaves are open to accept the morning dew. So that fertilizer is going to go right down into the stem, down the root zone, through into the leaf, down the stem, into the root zone. It's a great foliar feed. You get almost immediate results.
So my new gardeners don't know what foliar feeding is at all. That's
Uh,
not a common understood. So do you want to explain what that means?
That means just watering it or putting it in a sprayer or even in a watering can onto the leaves. Just get it on
Yes.
the, and it's not going to hurt a thing as long as you do it early in the morning. And
It's just a different way to get the fertilizer to the plant. So what most of my followers are probably familiar with is you put it in the watering can, you pour it in the base of the plant or in the soil there, and then it's sucked up through the roots. And she's describing foliar where you can put it. I use a pump sprayer and spray it in the morning. And there are stomata, little valves on the leaves, and they open and close and they allow a exchange of gases, but they can also take in nutrients. And some of the plants in your garden, like potatoes, are a good example. They love a foliar feed. So we'll be talking a lot more about when and how to do that. And Ann's products, all the Neptune Harvest products, are really good for this as well.
So yeah, I always say feed the soil too because it feeds the biological life in the soil and
Yep.
the microbes that makes your soil nice and loose. And so do the soil too, but a good foliar feed every once in a while really see a difference. I think that's hugely beneficial. It's also a great deer repellent. People don't know that, but deer are vegetarian and they don't like the fish. So you just spray it on the plants that the deer might eat, and they'll stay away from them. I mean,
We
it's
have
a
a
little
huge
bit.
problem with overpopulation of deer in New Jersey. It's out of control, and just similar to your legislation around fishing, we're not allowed to shoot them and hunt them. And we have the same thing with Canadian geese, and it's cruel to these animals. They've lost their habitat. And they're showing up in everyone's backyard gardens now because they've got nothing left to eat. So deer are a struggle in my area. So you're saying fertilizing, especially the edges, like make sure you're getting that smell around the edges and it can deter the deer because they don't like the smell of, rotting fish. Most people don't like the smell of it.
So I mean, when we smell it, it's like, oh, a little bit bad. It's not perfume, but it's nothing like a fish emulsion, which is really disgusting.
Right.
But anyway, but the deer smell it a lot stronger than we do. And we sell it
Hmm.
to farmers that could care less it's fertilizer, they could care less it's organic, they just buy it for dairy repellent. So
Oh, fascinating. All right, I'm gonna send a few bottles to some of my friends that live in really deer-heavy areas and ask them to experiment with that this year. I'll be interested to hear how that goes.
yeah, and there's nothing like a fresh garden tomato, whatever that you grew yourself, and you know it's organic. And even the lawn, we have lawn products. Put it on your grass. You don't need those flags. You don't have to keep your kids and pets off the lawn. You're not, contributing to bad stuff going into groundwater. It's just
Yeah.
going to keep your lawn really healthy and plush and green. And when you use a lot of chemical fertilizers, you're turning your soil into cement. It's dirt, and the water won't absorb. And we have so much flooding in the
Yes.
country from chemical fertilizer in agriculture, making everything like cement. So, it's going to drain, it's going to retain moisture. We don't want to waste water. It's a big problem nowadays with water, right? It's a much needed commodity. So the less you can use, the better. So you're treating your soil so
Mhm.
nice by using organics, and it's going to retain that moisture so much better. You're going to use a lot less water.
So for those of you who are building raised beds for the first time this year and you're buying a lot of store-bought soil, which is fine, I recommend that. And I have a recommended mix for most people of about one half topsoil, one quarter compost, and then you need maybe one quarter of some kind of vermiculite or perlite. I used to use peat moss. I'm trying not to use that. But a lot of it is sterile because no one wants to ship soil across the country in trucks where it gets warm and all the insects wake up and hatch, and then they hatch in the Home Depot or so you're sometimes getting sterilized soil and you need to reinoculate it. So using this fertilizer, I often tell people, and if you know someone that has a healthy farm or a healthy garden, ask for a couple cups of their soil. Throw it in your raised bed, and then when you throw your fertilizer in there, everybody's waking up together and getting fed. And then for those of you, we have a lot of people in this country that are living in new construction, like a lot. And what they do is that it's cheaper for the companies to come in and strip the topsoil off, which is an absolute crime. They often sell it to somebody and they leave you with this like dense clay, rocky soil. It's really high in iron in a lot of places, hard as a rock. Then they build your houses on it, put your roads in, and then they put a little bit of topsoil on top and they put your lawn in and they plant all your landscaping. And then you are doomed to years of synthetic fertilizer to keep that alive. And so this is a great product line for you if you are in new construction. Start healing your soil. Start applying this even to that awful construction soil. Eventually, it will start to produce more the microorganisms will multiply. They then start processing that soil and making it healthy. And the worms show up and they start eating it and then pooping out worm poop, which is so good. So it will take you a few years. It will not happen overnight unless you truck in a lot of new soil, but be faithful with using organic only products. Use a biostim, use an organic fertilizer, and you will see over time the yields become incredible. And you'll start to, and then we talk about cover crops as well. You will be stunned digging up a shovel full of that soil a couple years later, and it looks lush and beautiful and really supports healthy produce for your backyard.
It builds the sugar in the plant, so everything's going to taste so much better. The berries are going to be the most
Yes.
berries, and insects can't digest sugar well, so you'll have less insect damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I switched to a new variety of raspberries a few years ago, and I was worried they wouldn't be as sweet as the thorned varieties, but they are delicious because my soil is so healthy. And then they spread, and then I'm giving raspberry plants away to other people and helping with that circle. What else do you want to share about your like? Tell me about like some things your family's gone through with this that have been difficult, like hurdles you've had to get through, whether it's with marketing or formulation or getting ingredients. What's that been like?
So the hardest thing is dealing with the fishing regulations because
Mm,
they don't make sense. Their best available science is horrible science. It's not
hmm.
accurate science. And we see so much fish out there and so many dead fish getting thrown overboard because they're over quota. But when you take a fish from the ocean in a net and bring it up, it gets the bends like a diver coming up too fast. So it's dead and they're throwing them overboard. It's a sin. But anyway, it's just the government
Can you
regulations
can
are
you
big.
comment on the regulations and quotas? Because I don't think most people know about that, and that's primarily from overfishing of the seas, correct?
Well, yeah, there was some overfishing for sure when they had factory trawlers, but then they had the 200-mile limit, and our
Hmm.
fleet is so decimated now that we have very few, small family-owned boats that go out, but they're given
Hmm.
such little quota they can hardly make a living, and they're forced to go out in horrible weather because if they have this quota, they have to use it. Um, and we just lost a boat with 7 people on board, a month ago.
Oh
So
my
we're
God.
boats. Yeah, the fishing vessel Lily Jean. It did make the news. People might have heard it. But we had the perfect storm where the Andrea Gale
Ugh.
went, and we've had if you come to Gloucester, there's a man at the whale statue with all the names of the fishermen that have left from our port and not come home. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of names on there. And it's just
People
such
do
a
not understand how dangerous it is. They have no
right,
idea because
right.
the industry of fishing is very cloistered. It's just very specific places in our country and very small communities. And I mean, like living in where I do in southern New Jersey, I would never have one of those families as in my friend group. So I would never hear about the challenges. So you're educating a whole population right now. What's the biggest misconception about the fishing industry, do you think?
Well, you can't trust fishermen. It's overfished. They're liars, and it's really not true. They're the most sustainable group of people you ever want to meet. They know when to switch the gear because this is a good time to go for shrimp or this or that, and they'll switch their gear. They know when to fish where and where the breeding grounds are and when not to fish and leave areas closed. They're self-policing. It was the big factory trawlers that came in from other countries that decimated the ocean, not our small boats.
Of
So,
course.
now that they're gone, it's been recovering and they're bounced back, and there's so many fish out there. I have a friend who's a fisherman. He switched his gear over to flounder fishing instead of haddock because he had no haddock quota. And he put the net, just dropping the net from his boat down to the bottom where the flounders are. There was so much haddock in his net, he couldn't avoid them. So it's just that
Wow.
there's a disconnect between the regulations and the actual facts of what is out there for fish. So that's our biggest hurdle. It takes 10 pounds of gurry to make 1 gallon of fertilizer. So if we
Wow.
make 5,000 pounds of gurry in a day, we only end up with 500 gallons. So you need a lot of gurry. So you need fish, and if it was overfished, of course we'd want to you know, regulate and make sure that we keep the abundance for future generations. But there's so much fish out there they're not letting us catch. And now, because of that, there's so much baby haddock and cod and pollock that they've brought all the seals back in. And now we have so many seals eating all this fish that we can't
Yeah.
catch, eat it. And now the sharks are coming in to eat all the seals that are coming in. So they've very much messed up the predator prey ratio. That's a natural
Yes.
balance. And humans at this point, we've been fishing out of Gloucester 400 years. We are part of the predator prey ratio.
Mm-hmm.
We are predators. But it's a balance that has worked. So the regulations have kind of messed up that balance big time. And that's the most frustrating part.
Is there anyone working on that policy to your knowledge right now, trying to restructure
A lot
that?
of there's a lot of people working on it, but it goes way back, way deep, and I do believe there's people that want us off the ocean for other reasons. They're putting windmills
Sure.
out now. There's rare and precious metals. There's pipelines. there's a lot of people that want to take over our ocean. So I think it's a little, more sinister than it should
Yeah.
be.
Well, and we did have for a while, I know China was breaking all the rules and was overfishing. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's still going on, but that was a big concern.
It's horrible over there. There's a lot of places that are, really have no morals and scruples on their fishing methods. But I'm talking about New England. I mean, but it's all America, really. We have a reasonable fishing fleet. We don't have the factory trawlers. But then once they put all these fishermen out of business and they have all these permits, then Walmart seafoods could pop up, Tyson fisheries, places
Yeah.
just go out with factory trawlers, get the quota, and take over our food supply. So you just got to be careful with believing
Yes.
a lot of the stuff you read.
This is why I preach all the time. We can't centralize our food system. And some people think we should. They're like, wouldn't it be more efficient? And I'm like, no, you do not want a centralized food system where big corporations control. You don't. Trust me.
It's so unhealthy, all the toxic stuff they put on,
Yeah.
herbicides, pesticides. It's so bad for you. You do really want to grow your own garden. And with the Neptune's harvest, you're increasing your yield. You're making nutrient dense food. So it raises the relative feed value, the total digestible nutrients. You can eat less and be healthy because it's so nutrient dense. We sell to cattle farmers, and they say that they double their yield of hay and pasture grass, and the animals eat half. So
Yeah.
it speaks for
It's a
itself.
win. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I'm just now starting to do some really serious reading on the crossover between the human microbiome and the soil microbiome. There is not a lot of research, and part of that is because both of those sciences are only about, they're less than 20 years old. And we used to, we've only really understood the soil microbiome and the size of it. We haven't even identified them all yet. So now they're looking at what's the crossover, and there clearly is a crossover between the microorganisms to some degree that colonize our soil and our gut. And the medical community is exploding with their understanding of how much our gut microbiome impacts every part of our health, our brain health, our digestive health, depression and anxiety, they're finding. And so I'm encouraging people, it's just one more reason to grow your own garden and garden organically, is those microorganisms are alive and well in your organic garden. They may not be alive and well in a large system where synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, herbicides have been applied, and then you're peeling that fruit and vegetable, which is great because then you're reducing your own exposure, but you're also losing so much of the value of that coming right out of the soil. I want that. I want to eat that carrot. I want to pluck it out of the soil, rinse it off with the garden hose, and eat it. And I'm re-inoculating my gut microbiome, which I may have damaged with uh, Advil or painkillers, antibiotics, eating food that might have been uh, pretty laden with chemicals and or pesticides that kill that, or eating processed food, which also kills the microbiome. So I feel like we don't even fully understand the health benefits of an organic garden, especially and for kids. Like you see your kids running around in the backyard. This is my favorite thing, seeing kids running around the backyard picking pea pods and cherry tomatoes and raspberries and popping them right in their mouth. I used to think, I don't even care if my kids come in and eat dinner. Go ahead, stuff yourself in the garden out there versus the standard American diet. And our kids are unhealthy and they don't feel good and they're gaining weight way faster than they should for little ones. So we could spend another hour here just talking about why you should garden and why you should garden organically.
I mean, there's a saying like organic food, or as your grandparents called it, food.
Food.
And like all these autism and all these sicknesses and cancers and diseases and gluten intolerance and all these things, we never had them when everybody was just growing organically. So
Yeah, I do wonder
actually,
about that all
uh,
the time. And I feel like we fight over glyphosate way too much because somehow glyphosate made it into the American uh, conversation. And I try and educate. There are like 47 other pesticides we use, and most of them are much more concerning to me than glyphosate, and no one seems to understand. And it took me a few years, as you well know, from switching from doing synthetic. I switched to organic, and my yields did decrease in the beginning because I had killed so much. I had degraded soil. But boy, did they catch up. And I grow so much food now. And then using these organic products also helps my plants fight off disease. So I still have tomato blight in my soil, and I'm never going to get rid of it. But I can still grow so many tomatoes in my backyard that I'm crying uncle. By the time the blight in the fall ends up consuming the plant, I have harvested so many tomatoes. I have canned. I have given them away. I'm like, we're good.
The
So it's
crab shell
about,
will help with that too, and the
yeah.
skin rot.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to be making videos. So Anne sent me a giant box of her products, and I'm going to be demoing them in my garden for all my followers on Instagram and also for my Patreon followers. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Well, yeah, it's exciting. It's a scary time to be growing food because I hate to tell people they need to do it because they have to. And that's kind of where we are right now. It was a lot more enjoyable when it was a really fun hobby. But we're at that point now where our food system globally, I just made a reel the other day that went viral talking about the looming food crisis that we're having due to climate change, due to, the high fertilizer inputs. Beef is not going to get cheaper anytime soon. And so getting back to this, knowing how to grow food, knowing how to keep chickens, knowing how to employ that virtuous cycle and care for the ecosystem in your backyard. I hate the reason that we have to do it, but it really will net positive be good for everyone because as you pointed out, we have ruined our food system over the course of the last few decades.
I'm in a group here I helped start called Gloucester Salt, and it stands for Sea and Land Together. And what we
Hmm.
do is we have classes, free classes once a month, and we teach people how to fish, how to fillet a fish, how to cook a whole fish, how to clean a squid, how to grow food, how to can food, how to preserve food. Everything that we have here in Gloucester to be local sustainable food security. So if for some reason the grocery store didn't have food tomorrow, you could still feed yourself. And there's
Yes, amen. Oh, and you and I are kindred spirits. I love that. That needs to be in every town, every
yeah, we
town.
should franchise it.
You should. I'm gonna go find the website and read
Yeah.
about it because I think that
It's
is
called
I'm
gloucestersalt.org.
okay. I'm gonna go find that. I'll provide that in the show notes for this. We'll provide the link because I think there's probably some other people who would be interested in starting something like that and didn't know that system already exists. So I do some of that. I obviously don't do anything with the fish, but I do teach canning and gardening and preserving and how to, we're all into the sourdough bread, all that good stuff. And I feel great. I just turned 57 years old and I may look every day at 57, but I feel good. I feel good.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing.
Oh, I love Anne.
Shout out to Ann's Boston accent.
Klein and I love Anne's Boston accent. We loved having Anne on.
But I wrote down like 8 different things we could talk about. Fertilizer. We could talk about the fishing industry. We could talk about organic foods. We could talk about the fact that fossil fuels are called that because they're literally fossils, which I
You didn't know that?
didn't know.
They're from dinosaur bones. Well, fossilized everything. It's not just dinosaur.
Yeah, but like I never
Put that together.
put that together. I didn't really know why they were called fossil fuels. I thought they were just
Yeah, you know what? Another one that I like, this is completely off topic, is antioxidants. Do you know why they're called antioxidants?
because they don't like oxygen.
Because your cells, when they function, they oxidize, they create free radicals that can damage healthy cells. So when you eat antioxidants, they donate an electron and make it, it's just, I love the science of that.
Scientists were just like, we don't have time. What? What were we just talking about? Oh, the fork
Yes.
with the soil, and we were saying how like the farmers didn't have time to like
Be
come up with,
creative. They're like, this is called a
names about
fork. It looks
things."
like a
Yeah.
fork. This is called a spade. It looks like a spade. All right. Well, so I am fascinated by the fact that 70% of the fish goes to waste.
Yes.
So I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I guess when I look at someone filleting a fish like on the Food Network or something, it looks like most of it is flesh, and so it's probably different for every fish though, right? On average, like a little tiny fish, probably most of it is waste. So they were paying someone to take it back and dump it in the ocean to feed other fish. Yeah. And I love the circularity of this, that it all is getting used to make this organic fish fertilizer. So I will never look at a fish in a restaurant again the same.
No, it reminds me of how butchers are trying to use all of
Nose to tail, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you like fish? Do you like to eat it?
I do like fish.
What's your favorite?
Are we talking about fish or sushi?
Anything. Any seafood.
Seafood, that's also different. Because, like, crab.
Well, but she was using, in her products was lobster, crushed lobster.
That is true.
All of those things can be fertilizer.
Shellfish are at the top.
Yes, that's Jamie, my husband Jamie too. He's like, he would eat shrimp at every meal.
Yes.
Our budget does not allow that, by the way.
I feel that. I don't know. I wonder if we would not like shrimp as much if we ate it all the time.
That's a good point. Because we don't, because it's expensive.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like I've gotten some kicks where I've had it frequent. Like when you go like on vacation and you have it a lot and you kind of get tired of it. And it's only like 4 days.
You know, a lot of these foods used to be, like a lobster used to be considered poverty food.
Yes.
And now, and the irony now that it was given to the poor and it was given to the slaves back before the Civil War.
Yeah.
As like, oh, no one else wants this. And now it's pound for pound, I think, the most expensive thing you get on a menu.
For sure. And aren't they going, not extinct, but aren't they becoming super rare?
Well, our oceans are overfished. And so we're struggling with everything right now. And also, this ocean is heating at an alarming rate. So it's pushing seafood populations to areas where it's colder.
Can you clear up, because Anne was saying how there are regulations around overfishing that are exaggerated, but you just said that our oceans are overfished. So can you just clear up the nuance of that?
So to the best of my ability, without going and looking it all up, there's regional laws.
Got it.
There's international laws about overfishing. Then there's regional, state, local. And I think what she was saying was there was probably a regional or larger scale law over a particular fish that had been overfished. Now the population has repopulated itself. Right. They could be seeing shortages in some areas, but not hers. Or they just haven't revisited that law. And we really do need to revisit that stuff more often. So
yeah, of course.
But she was saying it's really making it hard for some fishermen because they're right there and they're not allowed to catch them.
Yeah. Well, because isn't that kind of the idea? Is that something would be overfished, so you would cut back.
Yes.
They would repopulate.
Yes.
And then you ease back into like...
You know, I think some of this is just new to us. A lot of the damage that we realize that has been done, we've realized it in the last decade in some cases. And so these are the first time we're facing these like, oh, look, it really repopulated. You know, we have issues of that in other areas of ecosystem and agriculture and land and resource management where, it came back, you know?
Right. Because that's the idea. I remember when all of those shows were out about the guys on the water who would like chase after like Japanese fishing boats, and that was like a whole thing. I feel like it was like 2009 or something. Yeah. But there were like all these people doing that, and I haven't heard of that.
Well, fish has been popular with Asian cultures and some other, probably I'm gonna guess here, I would say Northern European or the Icelandic and the Scandinavian countries, but sushi changed everything for us.
Oh, yeah.
So we do probably eat more fish, but I can't say I eat a lot more fish now as an adult, cooked for dinner, as I did when I was a kid.
Oh, I can. But I think that's my taste palette.
Maybe. I probably don't work it in as much. Like I'll go through phases where we're having fish all the time and then back off. But sushi... Yeah. Everyone is eating sushi now. There's little kids.
I had sushi last week.
There's like 9-year-olds who sushi's their favorite meal. Yep. Klein, if you had told me at 9 years old I was going to be eating raw fish and not crying about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And now I can't get enough of it.
The first time I even learned what sushi was, I was like 13. And I didn't have any of it because I was like, whoa. But we were at like a nice seafood restaurant and they were like, well, we have sushi.
Did you try it?
No.
Yeah, it takes a while. You have to be exposed a lot of times.
I don't know when I had sushi for the first time.
I remember.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Because Jamie took me out
Oh.
And he's like, you got to try sushi. And I'm
Yeah.
like, for real?
I mean, the first time I had sashimi, I was on a date with a guy who ended up ghosting me. So.
No, this has been a bad
And he
ex-boyfriend.
made me split the bill. It was like $100 bill because we accidentally went to the sushi restaurant for lunch. And
Did he pick the restaurant and then
um,
wanted you to split the bill?
I don't think either of us really picked the restaurant. We were walking around.
okay.
We were in New York, so we were in like Chelsea. So this was kind of on us. But
Gentlemen,
he then was like,
please pick up the tab for the first date.
granted, he
please.
was in med school, so he wasn't exactly
Unless you
rolling
have
in it.
discussed it ahead of time. I'm going to be old-fashioned here. He needs to pick up the first
Also,
tab.
he was the one who was like, you have to try sashimi.
Well, so you got something out of it.
He upped the bill.
You got something out of it. You got to learn to eat sashimi.
That is true. And it was like a really nice restaurant. It was really good sushi.
Oh, well, I just have to say I'm really glad that Anne had that
Yes.
moment where they switched over, because when I first started switching to organic, there was almost nothing else on the market. And I really feel like over the last 25 years, adding that to my soil has made my soil better
Yeah.
and healthier. And I don't know, I'm grateful those products exist. And she was delightful.
Love her.
So at the end, she invited me to come up. I'm going.
Oh, you
We're
should.
going to go to Boston a couple days, and then we're going to drive to Gloucester. We're going to stop at Dunkin'.
My friend's moving to Boston in June, so I'll come.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I can't wait to go visit Anne and see her whole production facility. We will definitely make video of that. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.